what I was saying was the truth is we've got this dependency. We don't have a way to fill it anytime soon. It takes years to stand up these pharmacies, excuse me, these factories to be able to produce antibiotics and other medications. So it's a real risk. And I got to think that China knows this. I got to think that they know they've got this ace up their sleeve
Yeah.
because it was a very purposeful thing that they went through over decades long to basically come into the market, undercut the market, the government back in China subsidizing things so that they could take control of this whole process. And now they make the medications for our military that our military uses to treat their soldiers in a situation where it's entirely possible that we could end up in a kinetic war
Yeah.
with the people who are giving us our medications. So
That's
I,
crazy.
yeah, I guess I just all of this just to shake people, wake them up. Like this is really, you guys, this is the world you live in, but you don't have to just be overwhelmed. There are solutions,
Hmm.
and this is one aspect, I guess, of the vulnerabilities that that we have all over around us that you can actually do something about.
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, the dependency on China, especially if they have all the APIs where, these other manufacturing facilities might be making the pill, but they still need the API. If that's being controlled by China, you are right that is an ace up their sleeve with a lot of leverage, a lot of power. And if things are to decline in our relationship with them, that could be a really, really crazy thing if all of a sudden, all those APIs stop getting shipped and supplied. That could create some huge ramifications.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we, there's a lot of medications out there that, yes, antibiotics, things that you need in an emergency situation. I mean, they're vital. And then you've got all these medications that people take on a daily basis that they depend on, for life. Someone who's got out of control blood pressure
Hmm.
doesn't have their medication for a relatively short period of time, and now they're at risk of having a stroke, a heart attack. These are serious things. You've got, not to mention diabetics and insulin, people with seizure disorders. There's medications out there that, yes, they improve our quality of life. They help optimize your health. And then you've got those that are vital for life. Those are all on the list. They're all at the same risk. And, we started with antibiotics. We started with those emergency medications because that's something that really applies to everybody. And then as soon as we could, we opened that up to also include those chronic medications that we encourage everybody to have a year's supply of, and we will help you do that. We will get you that full year's supply of whatever your chronic vital medication is.
Hmm.
So it's just being aware that there are options out there. There are solutions, and you can take back some of this power and be empowered.
Yeah. Are there conversations with China owning so much of the API side of the active ingredient in pharmaceuticals? Are there conversations ever that form that you've heard or been a part of where there's also the risk factor of potentially what they could put in that could cause harm?
Y- Yes, it's happened before. There's actually historical precedent here. Um, there was actually, and this was a number of years ago, but um, people were bleeding out and dying in the hospital. And I'll spare you the whole long story, but basically it turned out that this medication called heparin is something that I guess you can call it a blood thinner. It's something that we give to keep people's blood from clotting. And it was basically, it had been adulterated and was, 10 to 100 times more potent than it was supposed to be. And they finally were able to track this back into the actual producers of the most important component of heparin, which comes, pig intestines are involved in this process, and it was coming from random farmers in China. It was just there were no adequate controls, quality controls. Now, in that case, it appears to have just been related to greed, manufacturers trying to make as much as they could as cheaply as they could. And we were unfortunately reaping the consequences of that. Now, purposeful actions, if that can happen, could it happen in a way that was purposeful? 100% it could.
Yeah.
And so that's just one more reason that this needs to be brought domestically. Now, unfortunately, we get this question every once in a while. Well, you guys have talked about all this dependency on China and how bad this could be. And well, where do you get your medications? Well, we get them from the same place CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, Costco, the rest of the world gets them. And that's,
Yeah, you have to.
those suppliers I mentioned. And there's just no way to fully extricate yourself from China being involved in your supply chain. Not realistically now, not that anything that's financially feasible. So that's where we find ourselves now. Not a comfortable position to be in.
Yeah, especially like I do agree with the long-term thought process around, what the Trump administration is doing with tariffs. I like that idea. I like that concept of what can we do to incentivize and encourage people to bring manufacturing back to the US. I think that's what we all want. We want that the middle class to be restored in the United States, the middle class to be fruitful and thrive. And for that to happen, a lot of this manufacturing does need to come back home. But that, I am aware, is a long-term plan, and there's going to be some extreme short-term pain to get to that plan.
Yeah.
And when you connect that to pharmaceuticals, we're not gonna spin up these API manufacturing plants overnight. That's going to take quite a bit of time.
Yep, absolutely. And we can bridge that gap. That's 100% why we exist. So I just say, I guess I'm always coming back to reminding people that yeah, we're educating people about the risks. This is all about the risks that you are at, whether it's a supply chain risk, a natural disaster, or just a risk from being out, away from being able to access healthcare. Educating people about all these risks, and then just always reminding them that there is a solution. We've made it as quick, as easy, as you mentioned, as painless, and as affordable as possible. And there really is no reason not to take advantage of it.